Mexico's president is boycotting the Los Angeles-based Summit of the Americas. He says he will not attend since Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua are being excluded by the U.S. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has more on that decision.
Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador announced on Monday he will not go to the summit because not all countries of the Americas are invited. López Obrador says he will send Mexico's foreign minister instead. The Mexican president says he still plans to meet with President Joe Biden in July to talk about immigration and more U.S. investment in Central America. Other leaders from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador are also declining to attend. State Department spokesperson Ned Price says the U.S. understands the Mexican president's position.
We, again, recognize and respect the position of our allies in support of inclusive dialogue.
Price defended Washington's decision to exclude Cuba, Venezuela, and Nicaragua from the meeting, saying as the convener of the summit, the United States has broad discretion over who is invited to participate.
One of the key elements of this summit is democratic governance. And these three countries are not exemplars, to put it mildly, of democratic governance.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre says despite Obrador's decision, an extensive conversation can still be had with other heads of state at the summit.
The president has to stick by his principle. He believes that he needs to stick by his principles and not invite dictators.
But many experts and critics say the event could turn into an embarrassment for President Biden, with no meaningful progress if only a fraction of Latin American countries attend.
If you're going to host a summit, you need to get your ducks in order, not just days, but weeks and months in advance. And the White House doesn't seem to have been able to muster that level of necessary attention.
One expert says it's a missed opportunity for the U.S.
So one option would have been to invite all of these leaders and actually have a discussion about the problems of democracy.
Biden has struggled to assert U.S. leadership in the region where mistrust of the U.S. runs deep. China has made major inroads in Latin America over the past 2 decades, as U.S. foreign policy has been focusing on wars in the Middle East, and now Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Former White House National Security Director for South America, Benjamin Gadon, says it's critical the U.S. shows it's serious about investing in the region.
Latin America right now is in desperate, urgent need of international support. It has enormous potential to help fortify supply chains, to provide copper and lithium and other critical minerals for green technologies. It has opportunities for friendshoring, to put U.S. investment instead of in distant totalitarian states, in local democratic states. It has opportunities for renewable energy.
It's the first time the summit will be held in the U.S. since 1994, when former President Bill Clinton convened the first meeting in Miami, Florida. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
How much are you willing to pay for gas? While the national average price sits at nearly $5 a gallon, one remote California town is charging almost double that. But the high price is not new, and the town has its reasons. Let's take a look.
Gas prices continue to break new records every day, but the small, remote town of Mendocino along California's northern coast has been setting high prices for years. Current prices are now almost $10 per gallon. Schleifer's Auto Repair is selling regular gas for $9.60 per gallon. But if your car requires Plus, then you'll have to shell out $9.69. And if you need Supreme, that'll be $9.91. According to ABC7, the station's owner sets her prices high because even though she gets her gas from Chevron, she's an independent gas station. She also doesn't sell food or drinks to help make ends meet. Last year, NTD reported on similar high gas prices in the small town of Gorda along California's southern coast. Locals told NTD that high gas prices help offset the cost of the town generating its own electricity. Meanwhile, the average price in the rest of the state sits at $6.37 per gallon.
Los Angeles prosecutor George Gascon is defending the light sentence he gave to a teen felon who ran over a woman and her infant while driving a stolen car. Gascon says he charged the teen with the most serious offenses possible. But a former California prosecutor disagrees. NTD's Arlene Richards has the story.
A 16-year-old felon allegedly driving a stolen vehicle got a maximum of 7 months in a juvenile probation camp for doing this. The Los Angeles District Attorney George Gascon charged the teen with 2 counts of felony assault and 1 count of felony for leaving the scene of an accident. A single assault charge has a maximum 6-month sentence if you are an adult. Gascon says he charged the teen with the most serious offenses possible. But Charles Stimpson, a former local, state, and federal prosecutor, says Gascon didn't use the correct law to charge the teen. He says the teen should have been charged with assault with a deadly weapon.
There's a difference in the law between assault, which is an attempt to do harm or serious harm to somebody, and a battery, where the harm is completed against the person. And so the person who drove this stolen car certainly attempted to hit somebody with a deadly weapon. The car is clearly a deadly weapon.
Stimpson said the charge of assault with a deadly weapon carries a more serious penalty.
It's a general intent crime. If you're convicted of that crime, you get either 2, 3, or 4 years in the state prison system.
The victim, Rachel, said she and her baby were almost murdered. But Gascon responded it wasn't attempted murder under California law. Stimpson says the teen could have been charged as an adult.
This person was clearly capable of being tried in adult court with Penal Code Section 245A1, or the assault with a deadly weapon. He had prior convictions. He wasn't even charged with stealing the car or driving a stolen car.
Los Angeles voters are currently seeking to unseat Gascon in a recall vote. Arlene Richards, NTD News, New York.
The illegal immigrant acquitted of killing a woman in San Francisco was sentenced on Monday to time served on a federal charge. He pleaded guilty to accidentally shooting and killing a woman 7 years ago.
Jose Inez Garcia Zarate is a Mexican who was deported 5 times before being accused of killing 32-year-old Kate Steinle in San Francisco on July 1, 2015. Garcia Zarate has acknowledged firing the shot that killed Steinle, but claimed it was accidental. He was acquitted of murder by a jury in late 2017, with jurors convicting him of being a felon in possession of a gun. A few months later, the defendant was sentenced to time served for that conviction. He was indicted on 3 federal counts: being a felon and carrying a gun, being an illegal alien and carrying a gun, and criminal forfeiture. The defendant pleaded guilty on March 14th to 2 counts and faced up to 20 years in prison and up to 6 years of supervised release. But U.S. District Judge Vince Chabria on Monday sentenced Garcia Zarate to no additional prison time. Instead, the defendant received time served and 3 years of supervised release.
Not just driverless cars, but driverless taxis are coming to California. A state agency recently approved the service, with many limitations, to get its start in San Francisco. Here's how riders can take part.
Cruise, GM's self-driving taxi fleet, secured the first California permit to charge fees for driverless rides in San Francisco. The California Public Utilities Commission approved Cruise's permit Thursday in a 4-0 vote. Commissioner Clifford Rechtschaffen said the panel had been taking a careful, incremental approach to regulating autonomous vehicles. He said, "This resolution marks another important step in that effort. It will allow our staff to continue to gather very important data that will support the development of future phases." Cruise revealed its plan to launch paid services within the next couple of weeks. It will deploy up to 30 driverless Chevrolet Bolt electric vehicles. These cars cannot exceed 30 miles per hour and can only operate between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. There are several other restrictions. They will not be allowed downtown, on highways, or at times of heavy fog, precipitation, or smoke. One concern remains: self-driving cars are not always able to correctly predict human actions. Bicyclist Christopher McCleary crashed into a Cruise car that he said came to an unexpected halt in San Francisco in 2018. McCleary said he suffered ongoing injuries from the accident. He wrote in an email that, "Unfortunately, I feel like Cruise learned from hitting me that this is actually a sacrifice I had to make to allow Cruise to become better at predicting situations." Public records show for 4 years leading up to May 2021, Cruise vehicles were involved in 34 traffic incidents that led to more than $1,000 in damages.
At its annual conference, Apple announced a new set of features payments, and business collaboration. The company also announced a new laptop with a faster processor.
During Apple's annual software developer conference on Monday, Apple announced a new MacBook Air laptop. It has a new M2 silicon processor, which it says is 35% faster than the previous M1 chip.
I also thought the ability to tie together the camera from the iPhone to the Mac with continuity is actually a really big deal, because a lot of people have a hard time with that. I use a DSLR at home, and that's a lot of work to make that happen. And so for a lot of people, the ability to combine those things, I think is really important. Then, of course, the big surprise was the Mac hardware and the M2. So that was nice to see. Nothing dramatic there, but it's the kind of incremental gains you want to see a company have.
The new laptop will be 2.7 pounds and have a 1080p high-definition camera to provide better images on video calls. The MacBook Air will start at around $1,200. The M2 chip will also power the 13-inch MacBook Pro, which will start at around $1,300 and be available next month. Apple also introduced tweaks to popular apps, including live sports scores on Apple TV, making the shared video watching app available in messaging and shared tabs on its browser.
And I think what we saw Apple doing is doing the real meat and potatoes upgrades that people are looking for. Refinements to iOS, refinements to Mac OS, refinements to the iPad OS, things that people have been asking for, little things that, grabbed a lot of attention, like, fixing a text message that was wrong, in iOS, and being able to take a message back. That's also a big deal.
The company introduced some new features, like the ability to move from video on your iPhone to your iMac. They also are making the camera system adapt to users while they are on screen. These features already exist in products by companies like Microsoft and Meta.
It's a very competitive marketplace, and some of the things that Apple did, I think you could argue, were done by other people before Apple, but that's not the first time that's happened. And what Apple's good at doing is they'll take something that is clearly a good idea that people like, and they'll refine it, and they'll make it seem a little bit easier than the way the other folks do it.
While Meta is pushing for its virtual reality metaverse, Apple has only provided a few updates to augmented reality developers. Apple did not provide any hints about future devices, such as a mixed reality headset.